What's up, everyone? A lot of people have been asking me to do a customizing video, like how I customize my stuff or whatever. And so this is sort of what that is. First off, when you find a figure, or just don't take a figure and start slapping paint on them. Hopefully, it'll come out to look like something. Try to have some ideas. Look at other figures. Maybe you could just do a head swap with a little bit of paint here and there, and you might come up with something good. Sometimes you need a whole lot of paint. But try to put something together. And don't try something too hard if you suck at customizing. I guess. But anyways, the first thing I do is I take the figure and I wash it with soap. Gets all the factory oils off, because paint and oil, they don't stick together very well. And when you brush, it'll spread. I don't know, it's weird. But anyway, here I got a Viacon, and then after I wash them, I take them apart as much as I possibly could. A lot of Transformers have hinges, and the hinges are very hard to get out. You just can't push them out. So, all up in here, all Viacon's legs, these are all hinges. I'm not going to bother trying to take these out and ruining the figure. So I'm going to just leave it together and paint it. And take my time when I'm by the edges and stuff like that. Make sure I get in there. Another thing is, don't just slap paint, glob paint on. Do thin layers. I'd rather do 4 or 5 thin layers than 1 or 2 gloppy ass layers that are going to come out with all kind of brush marks and everything. Between each coat, make sure the paint dries. Do not rush, please. Paint this part, do some painting on here, put it down. Paint this part, paint this part, paint this part, paint this part, and by the time you get back to this part should be dry and ready for another coat. Know what I mean? Know what I'm saying, son? And you gotta use good paint. That Walmart shit is garbage. It's trash. It's shitty paint. Alright? You'll have to thin it out. You're always gonna get brush marks. It's crap ass paint. I don't want to hear customers go, look at I used the cheap paint. Yeah, but you know how to. If you did use the cheap paint, you got a good job. The figure came out good. It's because you mixed it with thinner and you know what you're doing. If you just want to paint things, buy either Testors or Model Masters, and they got another paint called X23, I think it's called. It's pretty good paint. But I pretty much use Testors. Testors is decent priced, and it works good for me. The paint is nice and thin. You don't want a thick ass paint that globs out like toothpaste. You want it thin like water. Works pretty good. But not like this right here. This is airbrush paint. You don't want it this thin. That's way too thin. Unless you're using an airbrush, obviously. Alright, when it comes to paint brushes, you obviously want to get different size paint brushes. Like this brush right here, the bristle looks all crappy and stuff. But this is it's so soft. Ooh, it's so soft. But this is the brush I use to, what's that? Dry brush. I dry brush everything. Pretty much silvers and blacks with this brush. And it works great because it's so thin and it's so fluffy. It doesn't hold a lot of paint on the inside when you dab it out, so it works good. Detailing brushes, and when you use these, only put a little bit of paint on and don't press down, lightly, gently, just go like this and just kind of graze it across the plastic so you can get straight lines and stuff. You don't want to go because it's just going to spread the brush. See how the brush spreads? That's not detailing. It's just spreading the brush. So you don't want to do that. Obviously, thicker brushes. If you want to got a big area to cover, use a bigger brush. You don't gotta, whatever. Some paints, they don't go down nice, like yellows and whites. They take a lot of coats because I don't know, they thin out very easily. But I noticed with yellows and paints, I put a couple layers down, and then I like to dab the paint on, and it kind of blops together, and it comes out pretty good that way for me. That's, I don't know, one of my techniques. Oh, what else can I say? I don't know. Oh yeah, enamels. Enamels are good for hard surfaces, but they get tacky on the brush real easily. They don't come off as good in water when you know swish it around. I like to use acrylics. Acrylics have they're pretty good, decent strength, and they're a little flexible. Like you can use them on DC figures where the rubber bends and stuff like that. But you want to let your paint dry before you start playing with your figure or doing anything. I let my paint dry at least 7 days. 7 days. It's like that's completely dry. Just because it's dry to the touch doesn't mean it's completely dry. Because if you go to take, like, say you got a snap-on part like the wheel, and you go like this and it feels dry and you press on real hard, and you're gonna notice your fingerprint's gonna be in the paint now because it wasn't dry all the way. Sometimes even a couple days. After you paint, you might want to put a sealer on it. They got spray sealers. They got ones that paint on. I don't like the ones that paint on unless you're trying to, like, get in a little. I like the spray better. Then you got your lacquers. I just started messing around with these. These are pretty nice. This is what I did a cup with. I used the black. They dry pretty quick to the touch, but like I said, once you put pressure on it, you'll get a fingerprint, so you gotta let it completely dry before you put your figure back together. Patience is a key. If you're not patient, your figure's gonna come out like shit. You gotta be patient. You gotta wait for stuff to dry. It takes a little while. You just can't slap a figure together in a couple hours and call it a day, unless it's just a real quick, easy paint over. I don't know what else I can say to you guys. Just practice, man. Start off by adding detail to a figure. Play around with colors and shade. I don't know. Just don't go in there thinking you're like a master sculptor and stuff like that. Just start off with a little easy stuff. Start doing detail on weapons or something like that. Feel a little confident. Start doing bigger parts. Don't just start trying to do huge, enormous, customs of a whole figure. Take a figure and just, put a little black, put a little silver, dry brushing. Go on YouTube, learn the techniques, man. You can also, it's called wash technique, where you put paint and add some water to it, get it real thin or paint thinner, and then you paint it all over, and you just take it and you take a piece of paper towel and wipe it off one way, and all the excess paint should be off in the crevices and stuff like that, and that's how you get like detail in the muscles and stuff. Just look up different paint techniques, try it out, man. The only way you're gonna get better at it is if you try it. You just can't read something and be good at it. Jesus Christ. You hear that wind? We got tornado warnings, man. I got my window open. It just blew over like almost all my leader class Dark of the Moon figures. They're all like leaning into each other, and Ironhide's holding them all up. Yeah. Like when I first started customizing, I customized. My first custom ever was my Thundercracker to my animated series figure. That came out pretty decent for my first, I guess. Then I did a Marvel Universe Rogue. Like